Welcome to the first presentation in our Dispute Resolution webinar series. This webinar is part of a collaboration of webinars with the South Carolina Department of Education's Office of Special Education Services, Disability Rights South Carolina, Family Connection of South Carolina, ABLE South Carolina, and the Family Resource Center for Disabilities and Special Needs. The information in this webinar is meant for South Carolina residents. My name is Sally Baker, and I am the Director of Education at Family Connection of South Carolina. The title of this presentation is, What is Advocacy? There is a diverse array of decorative pictures of children with varying ages, ethnicities, and disabilities throughout the presentation. Merriam-Webster defines an advocate as a person who actively supports or favors a cause. Notice that in this definition, there is no specific occupation or job title attached to it. Anyone can be an advocate and actively support the needs of someone. We're going to be talking today about how you, as a parent or any other role you are in, can be an advocate for those with disabilities. Specifically, today we'll be talking about advocating for individuals who receive support through an individualized education program, or an IEP, in the school system. Using the definition of an advocate just discussed, think about who might be considered an advocate for a student. As you can see on this slide, there are all different kinds of individuals who can be an advocate for students. Anyone who advocates for a student should have a knowledge of the student and his or her goals and hopes and needs. People with this knowledge and interest range from various agency representatives, educators, private providers and clinicians, and community members. It's important to recognize that the parents and caregivers are a vital addition to this circle. The most important person to be a part of the circle is the student. The student should also be at the center of what we are doing and advocating for. We all have a purpose and insight that can and should be shared and considered when thinking about what a student may need and or benefit from. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, says that parents are a required team member and need to be offered the opportunity to participate in IEP meetings. In order to allow parents to actively participate, school districts must take steps to ensure parents are a part of the meeting. They can do this in a few ways. One would be to notify parents of the meeting early enough to ensure that they can attend the meeting. As a parent, if a meeting notice comes out and the time listed is not one that works with your schedule or you aren't able to make that day or time, you can respectfully ask that the team look for another day or time that would work better. Everyone on the team's schedule should be considered when the scheduling of the meeting. Also, be sure to respond to the meeting invites that you receive from the school so that they know you received it and are planning to participate. This continues to promote and support open lines of communication, as well as ensuring that you are there and are able to share your insights, thoughts, concerns, and ask your questions during the meeting. Districts also need to take steps to ensure that parents understand the IEP meetings. This includes bringing an appropriate interpreter if there is a language barrier. Don't hesitate to let the person you work with to coordinate the meetings know if you as the parent need any accommodations to be able to meaningfully participate. As discussed earlier, IDEA says that parents are a member of the IEP team. Parents are integral to the meeting with the insight and information they can provide to an IEP team about the student. Even though teachers and related service providers spend a significant amount of time with the student each day, a parent is with a child from the beginning to the end of the school journey. Additionally, the student themselves can attend the IEP meetings and provide feedback on what is working or not working and what they might be interested in trying. In South Carolina, the student is required to be invited to their IEP meetings starting at age 13. However, a student can attend at any age. Some families may be nervous to have a student attend the meeting, but there are ways to support a student's attendance. For example, a student could attend the start of the meeting to introduce themselves, meet everyone on the team, and possibly share what they like about school and what is working for them. Or maybe a student would like to attend at the end of the meeting to hear the plan that has been developed and hear how it will work in the classroom and the day-to-day of school life. Or perhaps the student would like to attend the entire meeting and be able to actively participate and provide feedback on what accommodations and modifications they would like to utilize at school. In being an equal member of the team, parents have valuable information and input as an IEP is being developed. Schools should seek input on the development of the IEP. The law does not require that everything be included, but it must be considered, and the team must come to a consensus. Parents can provide feedback on how they feel some of the supports and accommodations are working for the student. There may be information related to a new diagnosis, a new medication, a life change, difficulties that are happening at home related to schoolwork, and so many other things that could be of benefit to the team to hear and know about the student as an IEP is being developed. Parents should come to the meeting prepared just as the rest of the team does. Parents can review existing documentation, bring any new related documentation that should be shared, and one of the biggest things parents could do to prepare to advocate for their child would be to have a conversation with their child about their IEP prior to the meeting. Parents can discuss with students the accommodations that are in place, how the accommodations are working, do they, the student, know what accommodations they have? Are there other accommodations they might like to have put in place to help them be more successful? During the meeting, parents can help with the creation of the goals, maybe request additional evaluations if there are concerns. For example, maybe a student needs an occupational therapy evaluation because there are concerns with fine motor skill deficits. Or simply opening discussion with the team about what accommodations and/or modifications might be needed for their student success. As we mentioned in the previous slide, students are to be invited to their own IEP meetings starting at age 13. Once a student turns 13 years old, the team must start discussing and planning for post-secondary services, which can include services to help them prepare for life after high school. This could include needing to invite outside agencies like Vocational Rehabilitation, Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, or DDSN, or a Center for Independent Living, a CIL, to the meetings to help discuss what post-secondary options are available after school for individuals. Students will start having an even bigger voice in what they see for their future during these meetings so that the team can help to support the student to achieve those goals, whether that is at four-year college, a trade school, a technical school, employment, or even possibly an apprenticeship. We know that sometimes there are disagreements within an IEP team. As a parent, it's helpful to address these times in a proactive manner. Having suggestions for possible solutions is one way to proactively approach a disagreement. We'll talk more about what to do when the team disagrees later. Part of being an effective advocate for a student is to build strong relationships with those who also support your student. Each member on the team has the same goal in mind, to help your student be as successful as they can be and to be ready for life after school. Some tips for creating those good relationships are: connect with your child's teacher before the school year begins. Reach out to introduce yourself and let him or her know that you are there and available and ready to work together as an equal partner to make it a great school year. Determine what is the most effective way to communicate with your child's team. Does the team prefer a text, email, a phone call? Think about what works best for you as well. If you don't have the strongest email skills, then maybe email isn't going to be a really effective means of communication, and that's okay. Just let the team know that early on. Talk with the team. Share any pertinent information that may be helpful for the team to know. Did your child attend any academic enrichment opportunities over the summer that may be helpful for the team to know about? Was your child sick over the summer or holiday break and now is weaker than they used to be, meaning they may need some additional supports put in place? If you ever have a concern or don't fully agree with a plan or something that is being discussed, or a pattern that maybe you noticed during the school year, start your conversations with the special education teacher who works with your student. In some instances, you may need to reach out to the principal for support and/or clarification as well. It's helpful when building these strong relationships to start with the least formal steps first, before going too far up the chain when there is a question or concern. Remember to show appreciation to the staff in some way. And also be sure to say thank you to the team for their time and dedication to your student. During the year, there may be times that you, as a parent, would like to request a meeting to discuss a concern you have. This could be that you feel an accommodation is not working effectively anymore, or maybe you feel it isn't being used consistently. It could be that you feel your student needs to have additional related services added to their plan. For example, more physical or occupational therapy. You can request that a meeting be scheduled. This would be called a Special Review IEP meeting. When you make that request, it's helpful to make that request in writing. even if you have already mentioned the request to the teacher. Email is an acceptable method for sending the request. By making the request in writing, it helps to serve as a reminder to yourself that you have made the request and helps to ensure that the team has received the request. Also, in your request, it can be helpful to inform the team of why you are requesting the meeting. Let them know what the topic of your concern is. There are many things a parent can do to prepare for the IEP meeting. The tools I'll discuss are not an all-encompassing list, but rather to start the thought process of what can be done to prepare for a meeting. Like we mentioned earlier, parents can review any documentation that is provided to them prior to the meeting. At minimum, review the most recent IEP document to know what is currently in there and think about what possibly could be added or removed. A parent can also request a draft version of the IEP up for discussion so that there is time to review and process it prior to the meeting. Parents can also supply their own documentation if appropriate. An example of this might be that a student has a new diagnosis from a medical professional that would be helpful for the team to hear and review. If a parent has kept documentation at home, perhaps related to how long it takes to complete a task or the number of breaks a student needs to complete a task, any of this documentation can be shared with the team as well. Many schools send home a parent input survey prior to the IEP meeting for the parent to complete. This survey or form is a great way to start compiling your thoughts as a parent and organize them in a way that is helpful to share with the team, and then have that information added to the parent-student input section of the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance portion of the IEP. Family Connection has also developed our Journey Workbook, which is designed to do exactly this and help parents organize and prepare for a meeting using a strengths-based approach. These are some examples of sentence starters and things to include in your parent input for the IEP. When it comes to my child's education, I am most concerned about. I would like to see my child make progress in. How would you describe your child's attitude toward school? My child is good at. My child struggles with. And what are your goals for your child in the next year? As you review a draft version of the IEP prior to the meeting, these are some important things to continue to think about and remember. Review the important IEP components that are at the heart of the IEP. Are the strengths and needs clear and objective? Are the goals measurable, meaning I can see and count to measure progress? Is there a schedule for reporting progress frequently? Are all the services clear and is the time sufficient for the student given their needs? Remember that what you are reviewing is a draft and has the ability to be edited during the meeting through conversation with the team. Look at the various parts of the IEP and be sure you understand what the goal is of the IEP and what the expectation is of your student by the end of the IEP. Make notes and written list of questions you have so that you can ask them during the meeting. Another helpful tip is to make sure you leave space under your written questions so that when you get the answers, you are also able to write them down and able to reflect back on them after the meeting. There is a resource available online to help with this development process, which can be found at www.parententerhub.org/PA12/. Keep in mind during a meeting that everyone around the table is there for the same thing, to see your student succeed. It is very easy to get distracted by what has happened in the past. Be sure to remain focused and think about what your child needs currently and what they may need in the future. Make an effort to listen to what is being said and how your questions are being answered, versus listening only to be able to respond to what is being said. Be willing to collaborate and work with the team to get to a point that everyone is comfortable with. Like we mentioned earlier, disagreements can happen. If that happens during your meeting and you've tried the problem-solving methods to resolve it, but a resolution isn't being reached, ask if the meeting can be tabled and have the team come back together at a different point, potentially with additional team members present, to find that resolution. At the end of the meeting, take a moment to thank the team for their hard work and for making the time to have these conversations with you. Here are some reminders to consider during your meetings. Be considerate of time. Members of your child's IEP team may be in the meeting during their only planning time or break in the day. Everyone's time is important and should be respected. With parent approval, members of the team may be excused from the meeting. For example, if the student is receiving transportation services through the IEP, but transportation doesn't need to be discussed during the meeting, staff from the transportation department could be excused from attending the meeting. Despite budget concerns, the student's needs must be considered, and services that ensure the delivery of FAPE, or a free appropriate public education, can't be denied. Remember the primary reason for the meeting. If there are concerns regarding special education services, you may need or want to reach out to the special education director or coordinator for the district to discuss your concerns versus discussing it during the meeting with the principal, who may not be able to speak to the systemic processes. There may be disagreement, and we have to move forward and attempt to problem solve. Using a problem-solving process helps to identify the specific problems. Asking for everyone's input on a situation and seeing who might possibly have a different look on what can be done to resolve a situation. Attempting to be truly collaborative is one of the ways someone can be an effective advocate. There is a graph on this slide that represents a visual of a problem-solving process. In the problem-solving process, you start with identifying the problem with precision, being specific about what the problem is. Then the team needs to determine the people responsible. Think about, is this a school issue, a district issue, or a student issue? Next, ask for a meeting, if you haven't already. In the request for the meeting, be sure that the appropriate people are invited, using the list created when thinking about who is responsible. If the concern is a district issue, is there someone from the district who can attend to speak to the concern? Before and during the meeting, identify the possible barriers and solutions. And then during the meeting, work with a team to create a plan to resolve the concern. This should be a team process and not a one-sided one. Having a team working through this process together helps to ensure that there are multiple options and ideas available and presented so that the most appropriate solution can be found. Here are some examples of specific problems you may want to address during an IEP meeting. The student is not making progress, but the IEP team is not meeting to address the services. Services are not adequate for intensity of needs. The student does not have supplementary aids and services specific to their needs. Transportation needs are not being met. Not receiving progress reports, or behavior-related concerns. For example, multiple referrals for similar behaviors, or being called many times to pick a student up early from school due to behaviors or elopement concerns. After the problem has been identified, it is very important to make sure the right people are invited to the meeting in order to solve the problem. Without making sure the right people are at the table, you may end up needing to have more meetings, and therefore it will take more time to get to a resolution. Some examples of having the right person at the meeting are, if the reading progress is not being made, be sure there is a reading specialist that will be at the meeting. Through all the discussion of the problem and an attempt to find a solution, be willing to collaborate and find a solution that works for everyone. Documentation is important when ensuring that services are being provided and you as the parent are on the same page as the team and knowing what is being done and what needs to be done. After a meeting, be sure that you have copies of the IEP, the prior written notice, or the PWN, any consents that were signed, or relevant documents that were shared. It can be helpful to follow up with a letter or email to the team who is in attendance. This letter can be a thank you for your time letter while also recapping what was discussed during the meeting. We'll look at some examples of letters in the next slides. It's also okay to follow up with a phone call if you haven't heard any response within a reasonable amount of time to your correspondence. This sample letter is one that may not elicit the kind of response you would hope for. Miss Glass, at yesterday's meeting, you and your team didn't listen to what I said about John's behavior and grades. You called me to the meeting and asked for my input, but no one listened to me. All I heard was you guys saying that John can't do it and he isn't behaving like he should. Your team is going to go ahead and say that he can't use his accommodations like I requested, and you are going to do what you said instead. If things keep up like this, I'm going to have to call a lawyer to get what we want. Sarah. Now, here is a template of a letter that may be better received and help you continue to foster the strong relationships with the team. Dear Ms. Glass, thank you for meeting with me on March 17th, 2023. I would like to follow up to ensure that I understood what was discussed. You contacted me on March 12th, 2023 to discuss John's behavior and accommodations. On March 17th, 2023, we discussed possible accommodations that can be implemented to support John's behavior. We came to the following conclusion. A functional behavioral assessment will be conducted to determine why John is acting out the way he is. In the meantime, he will be given frequent breaks and be moved closer to the point of instruction in order to support his needs. Thank you again for speaking with me. I am looking forward to working with you on this. If I misunderstood any of this, please let me know within 5 days by March 22nd, 2023. Otherwise, I'm going to consider this to be accurate and ensure the areas of concern are being addressed. Sincerely, Sarah. Sometimes, even despite your best efforts to collaborate and effectively problem solve, the problem was not solved. There are steps that can be taken next. Some of these steps will be discussed during our next webinars in this dispute resolution series. This slide provides some resources that can be found on the internet. Family Connection of South Carolina, our state's current parent training and information center. Its website is https://www.familconnection.south.edu/CATION/ Disability Rights South Carolina. Its website is https://www.disabilityrightssc.org. Center for Parent Information and Resources, the Parent Center Hub. Its website is https://www.parententerhub.com. Family Resource Center for Disabilities and Special Needs. Its website is https://frcdsn.org. South Carolina Department of Education's Office of Special Education's Parent Resources website can be found at SPECIAL-PARENT-RESOURCES. Rights Law website has an advocacy section at www.wrightslaw.info/AWW.COM/INDEX.htm. I thank you for your time and hope you found this webinar helpful.